idea to let states make decisions, to have 50 different ways. I think it is. It allows people to move if they don't like a law, as opposed to having some distant and partisan president or prime minister set the law for the whole country. I think government that's closest to the people, the lowest form of government, is the best because it's the more in touch. What's funny is, although this is a great debate in the United States and has been a great debate for decades, the number of foreign politicians who felt it was in their interest to weigh in. Here's the leader of France, Emmanuel Macron, weighing in. Here's the leader of Spain, of Norway, of Belgium. Now, the funny thing about these 4 countries I've just named, and it applies to most of them, is that each of these countries has a stricter law than the one that this court case upheld. Here's what I mean. Mississippi tried to say you cannot get an abortion after 15 weeks. So you got 5 months to make a decision about an abortion, but after that, the baby is too far developed and it shouldn't be aborted. You got 15 weeks to make that decision. So that was the law that was tested, and the Supreme Court said that law can stand because the federal government doesn't have the authority to say no. So keep that in mind. In Mississippi, one of the most conservative southern states there is, obviously, it is still legal to have an abortion up to 15 weeks. Now, do you remember those 4 countries I listed to you? In France, it's illegal to have an abortion after 14 weeks. Same in Spain. In Norway and Belgium, it's illegal to have an abortion after 12 weeks. So those 4 countries and many more that chimed in, condemning the United States for allowing one of its 50 states to limit abortions at 15 weeks, all 4 of those European leaders have stricter abortion laws. It's important to remember that abortion on demand for any reason or no reason, paid for by the government until literally the moment of birth, that is not the usual. That's not the usual even in progressive countries. You can see how important this is to the Liberal Party of Canada because they put everything else aside to obsess over it. Like I say, the abortion law in Canada has not changed. To be clear, we have no abortion law in Canada. You can get an abortion for any reason or no reason up until the moment of birth. And those reasons that you can use, and you don't have to declare them to anyone, include sex-select abortions if you just don't want a baby girl. And I point out that there was a group, I don't know if it's active anymore, called Gays for Life, that were worried that if there was ever a genetic test that could determine whether or not someone was inherently gay, I don't know if a gay gene exists, they were worried that people would abort babies for being gay. And the thing is, in Canada, you can abort someone for any of those reasons. I'm not sure if that's a reasonable position, but I can see that Gerald Butts, the disgraced former principal secretary to Justin Trudeau, he has gone absolutely wild on this issue. And sure enough, about a day later, Justin Trudeau weighed in the same lines. He's back as Trudeau's messaging quarterback. We saw that during the trucker convoy too. It's absolutely clear that Gerald Butts is back in power. You see this with certain issues, with gun laws or gun crimes in the States, abortion. Gerald Butts knows that he can easily change the subject in Canada away from high gas prices, high inflation, crime, high grocery prices, high housing prices. He can easily change the subject by bashing America for a gun incident or an abortion incident because the media go along with that and they would rather talk about foreign problems than Canadian problems. He talks about a right to an abortion, except in Canada you don't actually have a right to any medical procedures. Our Supreme Court has made that decision. You have the right to have a medical procedure of certain kinds paid for by the government. Whether it's essential or not is up to each provincial government, but there actually is no right to any medical procedure. But they need that narrative because they need to scare people. Gerald Butts is insistent that Pierre Poilievre come out as a pro-choice totalist, like the Liberal Party does, and he's obsessed with it, and again, you can see why. Pierre Poilievre has said that he does not plan to introduce any new rules on abortion, which is essentially the same position that Stephen Harper took. And although I think that Pierre Poilievre is probably more pro-life than that, I think it's probably the right move politically. The United States took 50 years of hard civil society, public debate work to win the culture war to move the pendulum back, and that simply hasn't happened in Canada. The battlefield of ideas has not been shaped enough to permit any legislation, even if Pierre Poilievre wanted to. So I think Poilievre's approach is probably the right one politically. I think the reason why the United States finally decided to overrule Roe v. Wade, first of all, it was legally suspect from the beginning. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and other liberal Democrats themselves said so. They said, look, you can be for abortion, but that law is just the wrong one to do it. I think, though, that the last 2 years have been bad for the pro-choice case. For one thing, I think that the woke activists have overreached. Their transgender story hours have stressed people out. They feel alien, and people are uncomfortable with the new extremist front line in the sexual battlefield. And secondly, when every force of the establishment, from the Democrats to the liberals to the media to doctors, are saying, no, my body, my choice, that doesn't apply to vaccine mandates, I think that America was politically and culturally ripe for some modest restrictions. I say modest restrictions because, like I say, every state in the union can have their own rules. New York, California, Vermont, these are places that will surely legalize and pay for abortion till the last minute. And maybe that's a proper reflection of those states. Why Mississippi or Texas would have to follow New York or San Francisco's lead is unclear to me. It's funny, I mentioned 4 foreign countries in Europe that are denouncing the U.S. Supreme Court. Trudeau was front and center, and as usual, he tries to capitalize in some way, but given that there is no Canadian abortion law at all, what can he say or do? Well, look at this. Here's the U.S. ambassador talking, I think it was to the CBC, about how there are conversations between the Canadian and U.S. government about allowing abortion refugees, allowing American women to come to Canada to get abortions. And look at their hush-hush, weird, secret talk here. Very odd. This is the U.S. ambassador.
I am comfortable saying that there have been informal outreaches about the ability of Canada to potentially step up and to be a location for women seeking abortions and reproductive health services that might not be legal in their states as a result of an adverse decision by the Supreme Court, that Canada is open to those conversations and willing to have those conversations.
I found that a little ghoulish. I found it a little gross. It's like it's, the Underground Railway where we're taking freed slaves and saving them. No, I mean, like I say, most places in the United States, including Mississippi, will allow abortion. There may be some limits, like you have to do it in the first 5 months. Other places not. I'm not sure why anyone in the United States would have to come up to America, from America to Canada for an abortion. You could surely get one in San Francisco or New York. A really weird thing I see is big woke left-wing corporations publicly saying that they will pay their staff up to $4,000, here's one case saying that, to get an abortion if it means they have to travel out of state. I found that really creepy because they don't pay workers a $4,000 bonus if they have kids. So why would they pay specifically for an employee to have an abortion? And why are they so proud of that? That was an excerpt from my daily TV-style show called The Ezra Levant Show. Each weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest. I read some fan mail or hate mail, depends on which I like more. And we end with a video of the day. You can get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.